So we have 4 properties, and right now they're appraised for 3.8 million, just those 4 properties. And then we still have a 30-year mortgage on each one of these. One of those that we started with is only 20 years left on that mortgage, but we still have a sizable amount. We owe 1.3 million we have 1.3 in mortgages that we're carrying currently. So, subtract the appraised value from the mortgage, and that's what your equity is. And from our real estate, our equity is about 2.4 million.
I love talking about increasing your net worth. This is our barometer for wealth building success. Today, we're going to speak with 2 investors who have grown their family's net worth to over $3 million in their 30s. Sunny and Sunmarie Burns are our guests today. Sunny and Sunmarie live in New Jersey with their 5 children. Sunny is the founder of famvestor.com, a blog, YouTube channel, and podcast where he shares about financial independence and creating strong families. And when they are not building their family's wealth and helping others do the same, they enjoy going on adventures with their kids. Welcome to the show, Sunny and Sunmarie.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm glad to speak to both of you today. It's always fun to have a couple together because we know, as couples, this stuff can not happen if the other one is not a part of it. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Awesome. Okay, well, let's look back a little bit. What is your motivation for building your family's wealth in the first place?
Yeah, I think primarily, we both kind of came from pretty poor families just growing up, didn't have a lot of money. So money was kind of important. And I don't know, for me at least, financial stability was important. And then when we got together, Sunmarie was homeschooled K through 12. So all her life she was homeschooled and she loved it. And the dream was always, and as soon as we got together, she let me know the dream that we're going to homeschool our kids. And I'm like, okay, so that means 1 income and we're going to have to make this work. And my dream was to have 4 kids. We now have 5 kids. But the dream was 4 kids. And so I was like, okay, a lot of kids, single income. How are we going to do this?
Yeah, I remember talking with him one day and just being like, I do want to homeschool my kids one day. And I hope we can figure out how to make that happen in northern New Jersey, which is pretty difficult. So that set us on our course, which we will talk more about.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk more about it. So you guys had that epiphany moment where you guys set these family goals together and you were supporting each other with these family goals. And you said, okay, well, how do we make these family goals come to life? What was the first step that you took financially? Because you guys alluded to the high price neighborhoods that you might be living near. How did you make that work financially?
Yeah, I mean, so when we got married pretty young. I was 22 and you were like 24. And, I started as a mechanical engineer for the federal government, for the Department of Defense, making $50,000 entry-level job. And then you were making $50,000 as a teacher in the public school system in North Jersey. And so together we're making $100,000, so pretty good. And luckily, you got tons of scholarship and didn't have too much student loan debt. I had about $25,000 student loan debt. So start of our marriage, we just had a little bit of debt, not too bad. We were always very frugal, very money conscious. And then, instead of getting a nice fancy apartment to move in together after we got married, we just moved into my parents' place and rented a bedroom from them for just $500 a month. Got to have my mom's good cooking. And we did that for 2 years and ended up saving $75,000 in those 2 years on our $100,000 income.
I love that. Now, how was that living with the in-laws for that period of time, Sunmarie?
Honestly, it was really great. His parents are wonderful people and they were really easy to get along with. I know that doesn't work for everybody in every situation, but we functioned really nicely together, and I loved getting to know his family better during that time. I feel like it was good even just for our marriage and relationship to really know where he was coming from, how he grew up and what his values were. I could learn that more deeply by living with his parents for a few years there. As well as learning how to cook the food he likes to eat. That was a bonus.
Which I'm grateful for.
I've admitted that to my wife many times. That is the way to my heart. Absolutely. Right through the stomach. Absolutely.
Yep. Same with this guy.
I think that's interesting. I don't know if it's our culture in general that just has this sort of mindset of okay, you're out of high school, you're out of college, get your own place, make it on your own. But I think that this can work out. Like you said, I liked my in-laws. I learned a lot from my in-laws, and we saved a bunch of money. Do you think this is something that is counterculture in our society?
I definitely think it is, especially in American society. There's just the idea that you have to go live on your own somewhere. But in a lot of ways, it doesn't actually benefit you to build wealth and to build connections and relationships with your family. So for us, We don't see it happening too often, but for us, it was definitely something we thought was valuable in our life.
Yeah. And I feel like, I don't think I could have lived 2 years with her parents. We did a short, like 3-month thing where I got to know, but I was like, that's kind of the limit. I need a little more freedom than her parents were allowing us. Like, are you going to be home for dinner? Well, what time are you going to be home for dinner? My parents were relaxed. Like, you come in, you can enjoy. You don't come, who cares? There's be leftovers in the fridge if you want it.
Well, you
And
got
so
to
I think
test
it
the
really
waters,
depends
right?
on the dynamic. Yeah, yeah.
That's right. So test the waters, make sure it works for you. Not one size fit all for everybody. So this
Right.
this idea of renting from them, did the idea of real estate start to seep into your mind after that as a way to build wealth, or when did that come into your plan?
Yeah, it's interesting. My dad didn't buy his first house until I was like 22. And so it's pretty old. And I remember reviewing his like mortgage statement when he got it. It was a $250,000 house. And I'm like, over the next 30 years, you're going to be paying like 500,000 in interest. And I'm like, wow, you're paying more than double what the house is worth just in interest payments to the bank. I'm like, I don't want to give the bank all that interest. You're paying 3 times the price of this house over the next 30 years. And so I was like, all right, it's going to be my goal to buy my house outright in cash. And then so we go on this journey where we're saving money and just trying to, be frugal and think about the future and be financially stable. And then I start thinking about, okay, let me start researching how to buy a house. And I stumble on a podcast called Bigger Pockets, and it talks about this idea of rental properties. And we didn't know anything about rental properties. No one in our family are realtors, nothing like that. But start listening to these podcasts about other people who've done it, who've, done this thing called house hacking, where they buy a multifamily property, live in one unit, rent out the others. And then so my idea started changing. Okay, rather than pouring all this money and buying outright in cash, multiple $100,000, let's invest in a rental property. And so it was just sparked from a podcast, and that's what we ended up doing. In 2015, our first real estate purchase was a 4-family house in Garfield, New Jersey, for $430,000.
And it was new territory for both of us, and definitely a lot of family and friends thought we were crazy
Yep.
to be doing what we were doing.
A lot of family thought we were
why
crazy.
would you do that? Why would you buy a multifamily?
Landlord calls, tenant problems. It's going to be a mess.
And not having anyone that we knew personally doing this, it was kind of uncharted waters. But yeah, through reading books and listening to podcasts, it gave Sunny and I the confidence that we said, we want to go for this and give it a try.
Because we knew it would enable that freedom, that goal that we had to have, financial stability, but also be able to raise our family on a single income so we can homeschool them just like Sunmarie had. And, I was all a part of that goal too. So it was the goal. It was the way to enable the goal that we wanted.
Sunny's background is engineering, and he's really good at charting numbers. And so he was able to really do the math and say, this checks out. If we do this kind of lifestyle, it won't be forever. But if we house hack, at least for a few years in the beginning in a multifamily home, we'll actually be netting income rather than being in the red with, our housing payment. And that's really what convinced us to move forward with it, even when everyone else is like, no, don't do it.
Well, I love that. And talk to me about those difficult times in the beginning, because this is when you were full-time working and then getting into this as a living situation plus a side hustle. So were the hours a lot more difficult during this time? Was there a little bit more strain on the marriage? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so when we closed on that 4-family property in 2015, you were already 6 months into your paternity leave, away from teaching. And actually, Sunmarie never went back to work. This was
we had our
10 years
first
ago.
child. He was about 6 months old when we closed on our first home. I mean, we'd been searching for at least a year and a half.
Yeah, it took a while.
Proactively to try to find that first property. It took a lot of time from when the initial idea was sparked to when we actually landed the first deal. So by then I was already on maternity leave from my teaching job. And that enabled me to be more flexible with being able to be on the premises, on the property, and do some work. We also had grandparents close by who could watch the baby. And I was pretty handy growing up because my dad fixed up an old 1890s home that we lived in as a kid, and everything you could possibly think of that could go wrong did go wrong in that house. So I had a lot of experience growing up watching him and my brother and myself even, fixing all sorts of things, like some electrical things, some, siding and stucco and plumbing and flooring, and doing new tiles in the bathroom. So I did have a lot of hands-on experience with that. So we did a lot of the work ourselves.
Right. Sunmarie was actually a lot more handy than I was when we first got into it. I had to YouTube my way through or just ask Sunmarie, like, what do I do here? And when we first got the property, it was actually vacant, completely vacant. So all 4 units were vacant. And yeah, it was stressful at the beginning because we buy this big house. We got to pay the taxes. We got to pay the mortgage. We got to pay the insurance, the utilities, everything. And there's no money coming in. We bought this $430,000 house. And then, yeah, it's great later, but yeah, it took months to screen tenants. First, fix everything up to get it all ready. And then, start taking pictures, start advertising on Zillow, start screening those tenants. And then finally the tenants move in and those rental checks come in. And then it was great. But it was a lot of stress, a lot of late nights for the 3 months. It was just like every single night till midnight.
And then work on the house, painting, sanding, spackling. But the interesting thing is buying a house at $430 at that price point, for most people who go into a single family, that expense is never going to go away. And that was an expense that would have been very difficult for us to maintain on one income. So I would have had to go back to work if we had chosen to do the single family as our first deal. But because we did this, once we got those renters in place,
we got to live for free and get paid a little bit.
We were like, hey, I actually can stay home with my baby, which is what I want to be doing.
Right. And she never went back. It's been 10 years.
That's incredible. Now, at the same time, you are doing your full-time government job. Is that correct?
Yeah, kept doing my mechanical engineering job all throughout and just recently retired from that 3 months ago.
Wow.
So
okay,
now we're a stay-at-home family.
Wow. Okay. Let's jump ahead then. So you guys did this first property. How many properties do you have today?
So right now we have 4 properties, and that's all we've ever bought. So we bought that in 2015. Then 2 years later, we bought a 3-family, also in that New York City, New Jersey suburb area. And then 2 years after that, in 2019, we bought another 4-family. So those were our 3 rental properties. And then a year later, in 2020, we bought our single family that we're in now.
Got it. So you live in the 11th unit of your other units. Is that correct?
It's the 12th unit. Yeah.
12th unit. Okay. My bad.
Yeah. So we have 12 doors total from 4 properties.
Got it. And one of them is yours that's not a multifamily. Is that correct?
Yes. They are only single family. The cheapest property we've ever bought.
Got it. So that adventure you guys went on from stress to now 12 doors was it allowed you to say goodbye to your government career. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So now we live solely on the rental income. We gross $275,000 just from those 11 units rental income coming in. And then after expenses, all those insurance, property taxes, mortgage, we're netting about $125,000. And that's enough. We're super frugal. So it's enough to live off of.
I love that. Yeah, $125,000 and
our
now,
housing expenses included in that.
Yeah.
Not our housing expense. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. So
not
for
our
the
primary
business side of things.
Yeah.
Got it. That's incredible. Congratulations on your success and your partnership during this process. I know that was a lot. So the first rentals really gave Sunmarie the confidence to say goodbye.
Right.
And then the latter ones have given you the confidence to say goodbye to your corporate career. I think I saw something, correct me if I'm wrong, Sonny, where you got the fork in the road email. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm one of 2 million federal employees that got this email from Trump and Elon saying, hey, fork in the road, do you want to stop working? And because they're trying to downsize the government, they wanted 10% or 200,000 people to take this. So I was one of those 200,000 that took it. I don't think they actually quite reached the 10% they wanted. But anyway, I was one of them. And I'm like, hey, I've been talking about this forever. My reach goal was to retire back when I was 29 years old. I'm 34 now, but COVID hit and, there was a telework thing and that wasn't so bad. I'd work from home. I could help Sunmarie out with the kids as she's homeschooling, but then all of a sudden, they want us all to come in 5 days a week in. And, I bicycled to work, so it wasn't bad. I got my workout in, I got to work, got to socialize. It was fine. But then once they said 5 days a week, I'm like, that's taking away too much of my life. We don't need this. We got the rental income coming in. We've been talking about retiring early all these years. I see Sunmarie struggling to teach all 5 kids. She's got an infant that she's nursing. She's got to teach the older 2 math and then keep the other 2 in line. And it's just, it wasn't serving our family really great. And so when this notice came out, I'm like, hey, maybe this is time. Maybe this is the fork that I need to take and our next step in our family's journey here.
And the nice thing is, because of adding all the rental units, over the past 10 years, we could scale up to that point to be able to have the luxury to make that choice. We had basically replaced the incomes that we started on, and some, and his
Right.
job ended up being just, the icing on top,
Right.
which is wonderful. Obviously, more money, yay!
Yeah.
But did we need it? Again, with his numbers and his charting and him, watching what we spend in our year, he realized, I don't think we actually need that.
It's still really hard to say goodbye to that icing. I mean, I was making $143,000 when I left, and I was like, that's a lot of icing. But it was still like, this has been the goal. This has been what we've been working towards, and it's really, we wanted to buy that freedom. We've foregone so many things to buy this freedom, and let's do it.
And I think the thing that helped us make that decision is just having had that goal that we set 10 years ago. We knew where we were headed, where we wanted to go with our life. And so we could kind of make these decisions based off of our ultimate, a destination. And it was scary, of course, when he came home and he's like, I think I'm going to take the fork in the road. And I was like, whoa, okay. But we knew that this was something that we were working towards. So the time was right for us to make that decision.
And you guys had been, I would say, practicing the frugal life that's required to do this with 5 children. A 7-person family living on $125,000 in New Jersey might sound nuts to some people who live in New Jersey, but if you know how to manage your finances and your numbers and you practice intentionality for a decade plus, it's not nuts, right?
No,
right.
No,
if your lifestyle aligns with it and you know what you can live comfortably with, everybody has a different number.
Yep.
And we found that this number was comfortable for us.
Excellent. Well, thank you for breaking down some of the details and some of the numbers. What I like to do when I talk about net worth is do some education on what that even means. Because I said you guys have a $3 million plus net worth in your 30s. Let's help people understand what that is. Can you break down the asset side of the net worth for us?
Yeah. So in terms of we have 4 properties, and right now they're appraised for $3.8 million, just those 4 properties. And then we still have a 30-year mortgage on each one of these. One of those that we started with is only 20 years left on that mortgage, but we still have a sizable amount. We owe $1.3 million we have 1.3 in mortgages that we're carrying currently. So, subtract the appraised value from the mortgage, and that's what your equity is. And from our real estate, our equity is about $2.4 million.
Got it. And then outside of that, it's investments. What else?
Yeah, just stocks and mostly everything's in Roth IRAs or 401ks. We also have an HSA, health savings account, but that's about it.
Awesome. Well, that's incredible. That's really as simple as it is. So we've got our assets, we've got the homes themselves, and then on our liability side, we have the mortgages for those homes. Any other liabilities on your
No, we buy cheap used cars. I still drive the worst car out of all my tenants.
I love that. Well, thank you for breaking down the net worth for us, so people can understand where you're going. Now, we've talked about your 5 kids many times, and I'll keep my voice down because I know I don't want to wake some of them up. What you guys have probably generational wealth plans, or thinking about that for your kids. What are they, or what are even your thoughts around generational wealth?
Right. So our oldest is 10, our youngest is 1.5. And, it was kind of cool. We just happened to have, so our 4 family properties, they're each 2 families on one lot. So we actually have 5 buildings. And it's hey, we can actually give one of these buildings, these cash generating rental properties to each one of our kids. And we're hey, that could be a pretty good endowment for each of them. We also started Roth IRAs for each one of our kids at the age of 0. So all 5 of our kids have Roth IRAs. So we think that'll be, in 60 years, that's going to balloon into a lot of money. A lot of compound interest goes on in 60 years.
That's incredible. So for Roth IRA, you need earned income for that. How does that work? Does that work with
Correct.
your family business? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so we have a YouTube channel that's not very big, but we're trying to grow, and each one of my kids are featured in different various videos for the YouTube channel. So each time I feature them, I pay them, and so we're starting getting a little bit of ad revenue from those YouTube channels, and then we can supply the Roth IRAs with those.
And we also take them along on a lot of our calls to the units. If we're doing landscaping, we will include our kids in the jobs, like
yeah, my son mows now.
Help mow the lawn, help
and
I'll
weed
pull
whack,
the weeds. The little kids, we call them the weed brigade. We're like, all right, here's the sidewalk, you guys go, and they'll just for a couple hours, So they are helping us in their ability at their age, but we're trying to include them so that they understand the business that their parents are in, and they can learn from us, hopefully through that, and also feel a part of it. Like this is a group endeavor for our family. It's not just what mom and dad does and who knows what they do with their time. We really try to involve them and let them actively be a part of our journey.
Yeah, they helped me paint a deck last week at one of the rental properties. We also do like Bank of Dad, where we give 1% interest on any savings they have. So we encourage saving rather than spending. Sometimes they still spend. Our little 3-year-old's always buying Airheads these days. Airheads. But if he saves that $1, I'll pay him 1% interest. So he'll get an extra penny that month. Some of my kids have, $600, so he gets $6 at the beginning of every month because he's got it saved. 1% interest every month.
That's great. Excellent. I love the lessons you're teaching. And you talked about the time that you guys have now. Talk to us about how your week looks like now after you've said goodbye to your government job versus when you guys were starting this adventure, when you had the government job, you were 6 months pregnant, and you started your first your first rental. Talk to us about the time difference.
Well, definitely I feel like now a lot of what we do together. And as a couple, we really love doing a lot of things together. We have a lot of shared interests and hobbies. So it's really nice to have that additional time to work towards those things. Back 10 years ago or so, we were kind of spinning on our own separate hamster wheels. He does his thing. I don't know too much about it. I do my thing. We have our isolated stress factors, and it's nice to now be on the same track, going in the same direction, whatever it is that we are working on. Obviously real estate takes up a significant amount of time because that's what we're living off of, so we put a lot of time and attention there. But yeah, we can really work as a team now more because we are doing the same shared things, including where it comes to recreational things with our family and how we choose to structure our day, homeschooling, field trips, outings. He can be more a part of that now that he's home, which is really awesome. Like he can have a glimpse into that world that previously was mainly just my domain, and he was at work all day, and now he can really take part in that. And that's pretty awesome for the kids to see too. Yeah, Dad, he's the STEM teacher. He's Mr. Math guy, So it's really nice for the kids to see that too, that both mom and dad can be a part of their learning journey.
I love that. Yeah, I remember re-entry for myself about 5 years ago where I'm like, okay, I want to do everything. I've been away, and I'm going to volunteer more. I'm going to learn an instrument. I'm going to be a more present father. I'm going to be a better husband. I'm going to cook more. And then I just overwhelmed myself with all the things that I wanted to do. And all of a sudden I'm like, how can I be stressed with so much free time? And it's almost
there's definitely some of that going on. I'll say that.
I can definitely say there's a lot of that going on.
He's home, and I'm like, I've never been busier in my life.
Busy. We're so busy.
I thought that things were going to slow down now that you're home, and it'll be more evenly distributed. Now I'm like, I feel like we ramped up life.
But do you feel like you're busier with the more important things than you were before?
Yeah, I think we're busier on purpose and like striving for, when we're tired at the end of each night. I'm ready to go to bed at like 9. And but it's the things that we want to be doing that, give us meaning and purpose in our lives. And yesterday we went on a nice bicycle 10-mile bicycle adventure. And we were tired, but we were also working on the house because we're planning to Airbnb our house when we go on vacations, because we're planning to do a lot of vacations. So
A lot of travel.
rather than have house sit vacant, not making any money, it'll pay for all those vacations. So we've been doing a lot of housework together last couple of weeks.
But the nice thing is we get up in the morning and there isn't that, oh, I've got to do this.
Mm-hmm.
It's, oh, what am I going to do today? Like it is a shift in mindset.
I love that. Yeah, I just said that to my wife yesterday. I used to hate Mondays. I really did. And now I love Mondays. I am so excited to say what's going to happen this week, or what can I do with my family? How can I grow my business? It's fun. Life feels
He just
more
said this
light.
week, he's like, oh, it's TGIF, but I don't know. It doesn't really feel the same as it used to. Like the weekend doesn't feel that much more exciting than the week. It's all exciting now.
Yeah. Instead of living for the weekend, you're living for the whole week. Exactly. Right. Yeah. I love that, man. Well, talk to us about, there's somebody listening. They're really excited. They're saying, wow, this is a really inspiring story. I would like to enjoy Mondays. I would like to feel a little more control of my time and build wealth that gives me that autonomy. What's one piece of advice that you would share with somebody listening to this interview right now that would hopefully move in a direction that you have?
Yeah, I mean, I think, just for the last 10 years, 13 years, we've just been living below our means. We started off with a good combined salary, 100,000. I just retired off 143,000. So we have a good salary, but we just live below our means constantly. Everything around our house, everything we've bought used, very rare for anything to be new. And I think just by doing that and making it a challenge sometimes, like how cheaply we can do certain things, even vacations, we do a lot of just hiking and camping and backpacking and bike packing, kayak camping. We just love the outdoors. And so all of that stuff is pretty cheap.
Picking hobbies that aren't necessarily expensive hobbies, but they're still wholesome and fulfilling. They get you out there. And also I think sticking to a budget and being aware of where your money goes is super important, because you can't really achieve financial freedom until you really understand your spending habits. And once you understand your spending habits, then you can figure out what your number is that would allow you to reach fire, Right. But a lot of people never even get that far because they aren't aware where their money goes. They have recurring subscriptions, or they make really big spontaneous purchases here or there on a whim. So I feel like I remember when we were first married and he's like, I have this handy dandy spreadsheet. We're going to put everything in here that we buy, even the candy bar you picked up at lunch break. And I'm like, this feels controlling. I don't want to do this. But it was really enlightening to realize where our money was going and realize the bad habits we had, if you go to Starbucks or in my case, I love the McDonald's 3-pack cookie pack, and I love to go buy it randomly. I'm like, I don't need this in my life. It's not healthy. It does add up over time, and I mean, that's just one thing, but there's a lot of those little things and they add up with time. So I think setting yourself a budget and finding a way to track what you spend is a game changer to actually being able to free yourself from the hamster wheel.
Right. And especially if you're married, I think just getting on the same page as a spouse, maybe somebody wasn't on board with tracking every single candy bar she bought, but with the long-term vision of, hey, I want to stay home with the kids and homeschool them without financial stress, she could get on board with that idea. And then, we can have that aligned vision and be on, be on the same team.
I love that. It all comes down to making the time for that connection and being consistent with that connection and going on a shared vision together. That's how you guys started this conversation with me. You said, this is what we both want. This is what I want. This is what I want. Here's what we both want together. How do we get there together? And you guys have. Congratulations. This is an inspiring story. I know you guys are sharing some great advice and fun stories on your channels. Please tell people where they can connect with you.
Yeah, so I've been building this blog, famvestor.com, but more now in just investing into the YouTube channel. And we have all our family adventures on there. We just got back from a nice 2-3 day backpacking trip together with all 5 of our kids. But just called Famvestor, like family investor. Just search Famvestor on YouTube and you can see our adventures and our financial advice there too.
Yeah, we love sharing about how you can do the great big adventures with a family and do it without needing to spend a whole ton on your adventures. So I feel like we're on this quest to show the world you can live a beautiful, great, grand life, have a great big family, and have fun and have it all, really.
Yeah, we rolled up to the playground yesterday and we started talking to this lady, this mom swinging her 2-year-old baby, and she's like, "Whoa, you have 3 kids? You're swinging all 3 at once?" And then I'm like, "Yeah, I got 2 older ones over there too." And then later I'm like, "Oh yeah, and we biked here." She's like, "What? You biked here? How can you bike here? That was 5 miles away. How'd you do that?"
Where there's a will, there's a way.
I love that. Well, if you're inspired by their story and want to learn more about how to enjoy some adventures with your family and not go broke doing it, they're going to have their link in the description below. Please subscribe to their channel to support them on their YouTube journey so they can continue sharing these great messages. Thank you both for your time today, Sunny, Sunmarie. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
It's been a joy.
If you're inspired to grow your net worth after hearing that awesome story, you should check out Empower's free net worth tracker. This is the same tracker that my wife and I use to grow our net worth from negative $50,000 to over $1 million in just 10 years. You can access that using the links below or click the link in our video description. If you want to get inspired to grow your net worth even more, check out this next video coming up.